Someone who has it figured out. You've known them for years. At 35, everything about their life reads like proof that the plan worked. The house is in the right neighborhood, not the most expensive neighborhood, the right one. The one where the schools are good and the street looks the way a street's supposed to look when a person's made the right decisions. The car's new, not flashy new. Quietly expensive new. The kind of car that signals you no longer have to think about cars. The vacations appear on social media with the specific frequency that communicates enough success to be aspirational, without being alienating. The job title sounds important. The salary you inferred from the life somewhere well above 6 figures. The clothes are good. The restaurant choices are good. The whole production's good. At 35, this person's the visual definition of financial success. At 45, this person's one layoff away from a crisis. Not because anything went wrong, because everything went right, in exactly the wrong order. This is the story most people never see coming. Not because it's rare, because it looks nothing like failure for the entire decade before it becomes one. The mechanism's got a name: lifestyle creep. Here's how it works in the specific and unremarkable way that it works for most people who end up inside it. You earn $65,000 at 28. Life costs $58,000. The margin's small, but present. You get a raise to $78,000 at 30. The apartment upgrades, the car upgrades, the restaurants upgrade. The vacations become slightly more ambitious. Life now costs $74,000. The margin's still present. You're still saving something. You feel like you're managing it correctly because you aren't going into debt, and you're contributing something to the retirement account, and the life looks better than it did. And better is supposed to mean progress. At 33, the promotion comes. $112,000. The house purchase follows. Because at $112,000, a house is the logical next step. The mortgage is manageable. The neighborhood's right. This is what building a life means at this stage. A car to match the house. Because the old car felt wrong in the new driveway. Private school conversations begin. Because the public school in the right neighborhood isn't as good as people said, and the private school's $28,000 a year. But at $112,000, you can manage it if you adjust some other things. Life now costs $108,000. The margin's narrowed to something that looks healthy from outside and feels thin from inside. But thin margins aren't crises. Thin margins are just modern life. That's the story you tell yourself. By 35, the income's $140,000. The life costs $136,000. The retirement account exists. It isn't where it should be. The benchmarks suggest a 35-year-old earning $140,000 should have approximately $280,000 in retirement savings, 2 times their salary, according to Fidelity's widely cited framework. The actual balance? $67,000. Not because of a crisis, because every raise met a corresponding lifestyle expansion before the retirement account had a chance to feel the raise first. The margin's $4,000 a year. Not enough to survive a transmission. Not enough to absorb a medical event. Not enough to exist without the income for longer than approximately 6 weeks before the fixed costs begin consuming the savings that were supposed to be for something else entirely. This is the person who looks most successful at 35. This is what's happening underneath the surface. Here's the data behind what this looks like at scale. A recent Goldman Sachs survey found that 40% of workers earning more than $300,000 a year say they live paycheck to paycheck. 40%. At $300,000 a year. The same survey found that 36% of workers earning between $50,000 and $100,000 say the same thing. The percentage is nearly identical. The income's 6 times higher. A Harris poll found that nearly 1 in 3 Americans with a 6-figure income report being financially stretched, struggling, or drowning. Not 1 in 10. 1 in 3. And a recent analysis by the consulting firm Kearney found that a household earning $200,000 a year can be more financially exposed than one earning far less. If most of that income's committed to a large mortgage, childcare, debt payments, and fixed costs that leave no room for anything to go wrong. The income's the headline. The fixed costs are the story. Here's what the retirement data says. Fidelity recommends that a 45-year-old 4 times their current salary saved for retirement. On a $140,000 salary, that's $560,000. The median American aged 45 to 54s got $87,000 in all retirement accounts. $87,000 against a $560,000 benchmark. At $140,000 a year. Not because the income was insufficient, because the income expanded the life at the same rate it arrived. Every raise absorbed immediately by the lifestyle, the previous raise already established as the baseline. The 40s are statistically the highest earning decade for most American workers. They're also the decade where the retirement savings gap looks its most alarming. Because the 40s are when the math that's been quietly ignored for 15 years suddenly's got a deadline attached to it. And the deadline's retirement. And retirement's no longer abstract. Here's the specific trap, the person who looks successful at 35's inside without knowing it. The lifestyle's no longer a choice, it's a requirement. The mortgage requires the income. The private school requires the income. The car payment requires the income. The credit card carrying the balance from the vacation 2 years ago. That wasn't quite within budget, but was within a budget that could have been constructed with sufficient optimism. Requires the income. The income cannot stop. Not for a month. Not for 6 months. Not for the 2 years it might take to find the next position at the same level if the current one disappears. This is what the Kearney analysis described as financial exposure. Not poverty. Not hardship in the visible sense. Exposure. The specific vulnerability of a financial life that requires everything to keep working and has no capacity to absorb the things that stop working without warning. 1 in 5 of the 6-figure earners Fortune spoke to said they'd been trapped by lifestyle creep in jobs they couldn't leave. Not because they didn't want to, but because the monthly obligations required the specific income of the specific job they were trying to exit. Trapped by success. By the house and the car and the school and the decade of decisions that each made sense individually in the year they were made. And that together created a structure that requires the income to survive. The person who looked most successful at 35 isn't financially fragile at 45 because they failed. They're financially fragile at 45 because they succeeded at building a life that's optimized for appearance rather than resilience. Because every signal around them said the house was the move, the school was the move, the car was the move, the title and the salary and the neighborhood were all the correct metrics for measuring whether a life was going well. Nobody showed them the other metric. The one that measures not what the life looks like from the outside, but what the life can absorb when something goes wrong. Emergency fund? Absent or minimal. Retirement savings? Substantially below benchmark. Fixed monthly obligations? 95% of take-home. Financial runway? Approximately 6 weeks. At $140,000 a year. That's the metric the house doesn't show. The car doesn't show. The vacation doesn't show. It lives in a spreadsheet nobody's looking at. Because looking at it requires acknowledging something the life was carefully constructed not to require acknowledging. Here's what the person who's still 27 can do that the person at 45 can no longer do easily. Let the lifestyle lag. Not permanently. Not as deprivation. As a structural decision when the raise arrives. And it'll arrive. Let it hit the retirement account first. Let it hit the emergency fund first. Let the lifestyle feel the raise after the future's already claimed its portion. This is called paying yourself first. It's been described in every personal finance book ever written and practiced by approximately the percentage of people who won't be financially fragile at 45, despite having looked very successful at 35. The income isn't the variable that determines financial fragility. The gap between what arrives and what the fixed costs requires the variable. And the gap's set not in one dramatic decision, but in the accumulation of a decade of small ones. Each reasonable, each logical in the year it was made, each adding one more requirement to the list of things the income now must sustain, or the whole structure begins to show the weight it was always carrying. The person who looks most successful at 35's often the most financially fragile at 45. Not because of bad luck, because of a decade of good optics. The life looked exactly right from every direction except one. The direction of the future looking back at what was being built underneath the surface, while the surface looked like success.